Here, I'm sure it's much warmer further south, right? Here,
It's a pretty nice day today, actually.
I'm sure it's much warmer further south, right? Here,
It's a pretty nice day today, actually. Go into unfinished business, and we're looking at the warnings for the town meeting, and they just got emailed out to everyone. I know you haven't had a long time to study them, but the first three are kind of just boilerplate things that we always have to do. The one thing that we're not clear on right now is who our district clerk may be. Our moderator, I haven't heard that, yeah, I had his name around the tip of my tongue. He was a board member for a while out in Athens. Can somebody help me with his name?
That's Don Capicelli.
Thank you. Does anyone have someone in mind for a district clerk? We did have Allison Bigwood, and she did not do it last year. And so now we're looking for somebody that would like to. I don't know why, but in the past, it's always felt it was a treasurer from the town. Does it? Yeah. Can it be anybody? Priscilla's shaking her head like that might be right.
It's the district treasurer. That's the treasurer. It's separate from our board treasurers
from the clerk
or clerks or any of that. And Kathleen has been the one that's always been doing it lately, and she's done a great job. So I would think
Kathleen Niehawk, right? Kathleen's last name is
Neathawk.
Got it. So I'm not clear, and do I need to have Article 1 approved with Don Capicelli put in there, or just to elect a moderator?
it would be to elect the moderator.
Okay. So Articles 1, 2, and yes.
My question is that at the top, you're saying these are by Australian ballot, but if we're doing a hybrid meeting in person and by Zoom, I would think that Articles 1, 2, and 3, and the ones that are normally voted at our regular meeting wouldn't be by Australian ballot, just the money amounts like it's been in the past.
I agree.
Go by Australian
so
ballot.
I do think that, and maybe I got hung up on the articles when we start at the top, but the way that is written, the only thing that we've ever voted on Australian ballot would be Article 4. So on Tuesday, March 1st, to act on the following would be to act on Article 4. And so we haven't set, or we talked about a date, but haven't set a date. We need a date for the Bellows Falls Union High School School District meeting, which my understanding is February 23rd is the date that we're looking to have that happen. So above the Article 1, 2, 3, and 5. Oh, I see what she's got. So at
Molly, when it read in the previous one that I'm looking at, it says after hereby warned, it said are hereby warned to meet at the Bellows Falls Union High School auditorium in the town of Westminster, Vermont on Wednesday, and it would be February 23, 2020 at, it says 7 PM to act on articles, and you put in 1 through 3 and what? 5 as it's
And
written right
5.
now, unless we adjust them. And then adjourn to Tuesday, March, what is it? March 6th, whatever date it is, 2020, to vote by
March
Australian
1st.
ballot on Article 4. March 1st, no, March-
1st is a
March-
Tuesday.
March 1st is a Tuesday this year? March 1st, okay. 2020, to vote by Australian ballot on Article 4, on which date the polls will be open at places and during the time stated below, as she's got there.
So it looks like we need to change that top paragraph.
Right.
Okay,
Nicole must be changing it as we're talking.
I think
Or
she
somebody
is,
is
yes.
changing. Yeah,
Nicole's here with me, so.
yeah, it's because I see it changing.
Molly, Deb Wright has her hand up.
Go ahead, Deb.
My question is the informational meeting, is that intended to be Wednesday? And if it is intended to be Wednesday, the 23rd, which is what the 23rd is, shouldn't we also designate it that it is Wednesday? We should define the day and date as well. That's my question.
Yeah, that's what I just read, Deb.
It doesn't say Wednesday, it just says the 23rd. I'm saying it should state the day of the week as well.
Yep,
Yeah,
she
it does,
getting
the way I read it.
We're doing that right now. We're doing that right now. Good point.
Okay,
To meet at the Bellows Falls Union High School Auditorium in the town of Westminster, Vermont, on Wednesday, September 23, 2020, at 7 PM to act on Articles 1 through whatever they are, 3, and Article 5, and then adjourn to Tuesday, March 3, 2020, to vote by Australian ballot on Article 4, on which date the polls will be open at the places and dates
So
during
right
the
now,
time stated below.
we have this information about the public meeting and voting down at the bottom under further notice. I'm wondering if that should just be part of that first opening article, or not article, but the first paragraph. It seems confusing to separate it.
Yeah, that's the way it was done before, and that's what I was reading from, was the way it had been done before. It's not at the bottom. Well, you have also the bottom one.
Because
Nicole's
right
moving it.
now, we need to fix our opening paragraph. Because we're saying that we're hereby. Yeah,
She's getting it fixed.
That first paragraph should not be there. It should start with the legal voters, just like it did in the previous warnings.
Thank you, Nicole.
I think the problem is the last sentence.
Okay, the
Articles
legal,
1, 2, 3, and 5, and adjourn to Tuesday, March 1st. It just doesn't flow there.
You gotta have the meeting first, like I read it. They're hereby
Yeah.
warned to meet at Bellows Falls Union High School Auditorium in the town of Westminster, Vermont, on Wednesday, February 23, 2020 at 7 PM.
Okay, so hang on, Priscilla. So we're saying the legal voters of the Union High School consisting of the Vermont are hereby warned to meet
at the Bellows Falls Union High School Auditorium.
To meet at the
In the town of Westminster, Vermont, on Wednesday, February 23, 2020 at 7 p.m.
22.
I'm sorry, 22
7
at
p.m.
7 p.m. to act on articles 1 through whatever we decide on here, 1 through 3, and Article 5, and then adjourn 1, 2, 3, 5, and then adjourn to Tuesday, March 1, 2022. Vote by, you've got it there, just put in 2. By Australian ballot on articles,
Article 4.
on Article 4. Yeah.
And then get rid of that last sentence.
On which, and then it says on which the date, the polls will be open at the places and during the time stated below. But you've got that in a separate line, so that's fine. Okay, the only other question I've got on that was the one I'm reading from says Article 1 is to act on the reports of the officers. And that's usually in there. So do we want that?
There you
I
go.
thought we usually did the officers at our first organizational meeting.
Well, we act on the reports of the officers at the
Oh, the report.
meetings.
Meaning we're acting on the high school report.
Yeah.
So we can put that,
Yes, that's usually
Yeah.
Article 1.
okay?
And then you just move them down 1.
Article 1 is, say it again.
To act on the reports of the officers.
Yeah, I can spell. You can all see that. That's wrong. I know. Yep. I can't even spell right now. All right. We'll put it in.
ICERS.
All right.
Good.
All
And
right.
then you have article, and then you got to put Article 2 in there, you gotta adjust your articles. And renumber Article 3, Article 4. Which changes it at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 at the moment.
Yeah, that one, this one, 6.
You're gonna, yeah, put 4 in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Till we change it on you.
Fine, as long as we can agree upon this, then we can go somewhere else.
Okay. Have we found out the equalized spending yet? Because that's important.
John, do you have that?
I can give you that number at some point. if we can agree on the total budget number.
That budget number there, that 7,023,000 is different than the number that we had Friday night. Is that what adjusted that?
Let me.
Unless it was adjusted towards the end of the meeting and I didn't get it written down, but
Yeah,
something-
that's the number that I had, Priscilla.
is it? Okay, was that adjusted toward the end of our meeting Friday night? Is that what happened? Because on the paper, it was 7,165,000. But it might have been adjusted after and I just didn't get it written down.
Well, I tried to say it was 7,230,000 and Andy corrected me and told me it was 7,023,000.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you,
that-
Molly. You're correct.
that's-
I'm wrong.
That's the adjusted number, but then what also needs to happen, and Glenn, I'm gonna fumble through this, and if you can save me, is depending on what you guys choose to do with your fund balance, you might be reducing that number. And that'll give you your education spending as well.
Okay, David Clark has a hand up.
Thank you, Molly. Neither Athens nor Grafton operate a school district. Therefore, the language needs to be voters in the towns of Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, Westminster.
So regarding the,
So.
Hold on,
The money-
let's fix what,
Hang on, so
let's
you're
fix
saying,
what,
David, you're saying consisting of the school districts of Rockingham and Westminster and the voters of Athens and Grafton? I'm sorry, I missed.
Andy, it's supposed to be the voters of the towns of Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, Westminster.
Gotcha.
David, could you just say consisting of the towns of Athens, the first line, consisting of the towns of? Because they're the Union High School District. Would that work? Or do you need legal voters again? But you said legal voters of Union School District.
A voter, there is no such thing as a legal voter of the Athens School District. There is no such thing as a legal voter of
No.
the Grafton School District
We
because
took- so we
those
took out-
districts do
Right.
not exist.
We-
Therefore, it is the legal voters in the towns of Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, and Westminster.
Because we've already said, David, we've already said the legal voters of Union High School District number 20 says, so we say consisting of the, what do you want?
Be consistent
Voters
with the
of-
towns of Athens, Grafton,
Yeah.
Rockingham, and
Okay.
Westminster, but not the school districts. Because two of those school
Right.
districts you're citing do not exist.
But I guess we took out the school district piece, David, so that's what, so we, yeah. So we have the legal voters of the Union High School District consisting of the towns Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, and Westminster. Are you saying it should say the legal voters of the towns of Athens, Grafton, Rockingham, and Westminster, which comprise the Union Elementary or the Union High School?
Just as long as you drop the reference to Athens and Grafton school districts, I think you're going to be okay, Andy.
Okay, we did that. So I guess as we are looking at that for article number 5, I guess the question is, there is a fund balance of 800. Where did I lose that?
892,374 is what you gave us Friday night.
$892,374. Yes, Okay, just wanted to make sure I had the right number.
Andy, is that fund balance confirmed? Like, is that a solid number now? Because I thought the audit wasn't finished.
I would venture to say that it is pretty close to, like, I think you're probably within $10,000. I don't think that, I just talked with Miranda, just before this meeting, just to verify, and she was comfortable with that number. So, she recommended, I think, never depleting the whole thing, because don't take the whole 892,000 and give it, keep some of it in reserve a little bit was what she was recommending, but,
So what happens if, because, we have to put very specific numbers in the warning. So what happens if we're $10,000 off? Does that make a difference? It seems like it would.
yeah, you would be deficit spending next year. But Molly, David has his hand up.
Go ahead, David.
Your fund balance, if it is not otherwise designated, is going to reduce taxation. If you want to reserve fund balance for a specific purpose, then you need to identify what that purpose is and what the amount is. And you are in a situation where you could vote it off the floor if that's what you want to do, or you could vote it by Australian ballot. I think you're probably better off voting it off the floor, because in the absence of an explanation, it will be difficult for most voters to understand whether they want to vote yes or no. And we do know from experience that people who are uncertain have a greater tendency to vote no.
So we had a suggestion made that we were going to take a portion of that to reduce the cost to the taxpayers, and then a balance of that money and put it in a reserve fund for some of these maintenance items that feel like they're a long ways away because they're a lot of money. Whether it's the auditorium or the driveway or whatever, whatever is next on the punch list of things that we've been trying to get done. Mr. Broadley, do you have some insight on that for us?
You're muted, John.
I would think that we should roll over some of it and then put the rest in a reserve fund, so that once we've used or depleted our ESSER funding on whatever can be done, then we would have a healthy balance to then continue to further work at the projects we need done without further asking of the taxpayer, so to speak.
Do you have a recommendation, or do you want somebody else to make that?
Well, what I'd said to earlier was, I recommend rolling over, say, 100,000 and putting 792 in a reserve fund. With our budget being down in a better place this year, that'll give a further tax break. But again, I don't know what the equalized pupil amount would be. So I'd like us to also think about that, if Glenn has figures that he can give us to make sure we're below that. So that would be my recommendation. But
Okay, Glenn, are you able to give us the equalized student?
I can. I would like to do a rather lengthy explanation of what your budget is because when I look at the budget, do you have that in front of you? You
Not right in
have,
front of me.
you have removed the on behalf payments to the tech center and a donation for a math teacher. Those are revenues and they will reduce your ed spending, but they don't reduce your budget, or you shouldn't put them in until you actually have your total budget. When I look at your budget, your total budget is actually $7,310,995 because you can't back those revenues out without impacting your ed spending per equalized pupil. I'll go through this again, but essentially your budget is at $7,310,000. Your ed spending is a combination of taking your total budget and reducing it by any local revenues. So that one piece of local revenue that I can see is the $43,942 that you're receiving as a donation for a math teacher. Andy, did you get the email that I sent with the
Yeah.
modified budget that I had done? Could you put that up?
That came in that same email with that piece, Glenn?
I'm sorry. I emailed it at about 11 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
I'm on.
Yeah, let me.
I can.
Yeah, no, I have it. I just gotta
Okay.
get it up here. That's this one, right?
Yes. So you can see that at the top, I've added a piece that shows the revenues. So your actual budget is the numbers that you see here as your Bellows Falls Union High School total of the $5,643,000 and your assessments, which brings you to the $7,310,000. It is correct when you look at the top that $247,000 of that is money that will come from the state. The other piece is that $42,000. It's unclear to me because I just don't know. In 21, your local revenue was 132,000. In 22, it was only 16. It is possible that you used fund balance in the past. So if there are no other sources of revenue that you know of, that's close enough.
Glenn, the revenue, what would the revenue from, we have one student from another school district that doesn't have a high school anymore, Black River, who is here now. And I believe the revenue from that is 19, almost 20,000. Where would that be shown?
Well, you can see over on the left there, I have a tuition question mark. My assumption was that if there was any other revenue, it would likely be some tuition. Mm-hmm. If you want to put that in there, it's okay. I will also tell you that we're looking at a situation where the $20,000 is of small value in this. Your tax rate is going to go down significantly because the dollar yield has gone up, but we'll get to that a little bit later. What I wanted to do was to agree or hope you would agree, try and convince you that your total budget is actually $7,310,000 because you shouldn't be taking those revenue pieces out of your expenditures.
And where do they get shown?
Well, they'll be at the top here. You can see the ed spending grant. The first thing at the top is a number that you arrive at by taking your total budget, all of your expenditures, and reducing it by any local revenues and the supplemental tech center assistance grant. That's how you get to that number.
Mhm.
And that is the money that the education fund will be sending to you to operate your school.
Excuse me, Glenn, I don't mean to interrupt you, even though I'm interrupting you, but you are
Not a
aware
problem.
that the high school sends to 2 tech centers, Brattleboro, where we have a few kids, which is operated by Brattleboro Union High School, and also River Valley Tech Center in Springfield, where we send roughly 50 kids. However, RVTC is an independent municipality with its own board of control and its own taxing authority. So I just want to make sure that that 254,113 is not a direct revenue to RVTC, which I believe it is.
There is some other place in your budget where you pay the direct payments to all of these centers. This portion is only that portion which is an on behalf payment from the state.
We
If you
make
scroll
no,
up,
Glenn, we make no direct payments to RVTC. It is an independent municipality. It is as much an independent municipality as Brattleboro Union, actually that's Wyndham Southeast, or this high school is. I want to make sure we get that one right.
all right, if Andy can scroll up a little bit, you will see in your budget the actual tuition payments. Here, it's right at, whoop, you've gone a little too far. This portion of your budget here, is that the payment you're talking about to the RVTC? The 151.50?
I'm sorry, Glenn, it's not clear to me.
There are, but you can see the state contribution and the tech center contributions here, right?
There's no on behalf for the independent tech center municipalities.
Correct. Correct. There's a 151 that goes to RVTC. That's a direct payment. And there's a direct payment to the Wyndham Career Center. And then there are 2 on behalf payments of the 231 and the 26,189.
Okay, I got to say this again. One of the stumbling blocks that the independent tech centers are facing, that's Bennington, Middlebury, and River Valley Tech Center in Springfield. Pardon me, not on behalf. I've got my on behalf and my hold harmless mixed up, so I concede the point.
Okay. So there are two parts of that are on behalf and 2 others are direct payments that you're making. So
So, go ahead, Glenn.
So anyway, my first question is, can we agree, or would you agree that your total budget is the 7,310,000?
Not willing to do that. I'm not willing to increase it over what the 7,023,000 is. I think we can live within that means.
Well, it's not going to increase your costs. Let me just, you see here at the bottom, at the very bottom, you have taken these, you've taken out $23,942, which is revenue, and $257,000, which is revenue. You reduced your cost from 5,600 to 5,600,000 to 5,300,000. That's really revenue, but you're going to have to spend the 5,643,000. It's part of your expenditures. This is just taking the budgets that you have and adding them together, your total budget and your assessment budget. And then the revenues will come out at the top. This will all come back to the same place. I'm sorry that this is a little bit difficult, but if you don't have the total budget and your total ed spending, if you take those numbers out first, you won't raise enough in taxes.
Oh, yeah.
It will not change it won't change the end product. It will simply show revenues as one part of your budget and expenditures as another. You are going to
what we're assessing out for, please?
I'm sorry?
Glenn, can you tell us what we're assessing out for, please, Glenn?
Andy, can you show them what you had started with, the 3 prior year comparison? So if you start at the top with your budget of 3 million or 7,300,000, you take away your local revenues down there at the $42,942. That means your education spending is $7,268,000 divided by those 383.95 equalized pupils. So your ed spending is down to $18,929. There is no threshold down on line 23. There's no longer any penalty should you go over that, although you did not. So you'll be looking at a tax rate based on 18,929. The union spending adjustment is 146.322% because the dollar yield has gone up to $12,937. Your homestead tax rate is down from $1.75 to $1.46.
Does that make sense to everyone?
I know.
It does me, but just want to make sure everybody else did.
No, because when I'm looking at the bottom of that thing, I'm looking at where it was changed to 7,000,009. So at the on the other page, when we were looking at the budget page,
Yes.
and then he had the figures over on the right. So why aren't we going with the 7,009,000 if we're doing this? I don't understand why we're increasing it.
The difference between those two numbers are the two pieces of revenue that you have already used to reduce what you're considering your expenditures. And if
But we wouldn't have that other half teacher. We increased the other half teacher in financial literacy because of that payment that was going to go to increase that. So if we wouldn't increase that, without that, I don't understand why we put it in, because it's actually not part of what would be budgeted.
If it shows as an expenditure and it also has an offsetting revenue, it is net to your budget. But your budget is, the theory at the, actually statutorily, the requirement in budgeting is to show all of your anticipated expenditures and all of your anticipated revenues. If you can show it the way it's shown, that says that your budget is actually only $7,009,009, but it doesn't represent the actual expenditures that you will be making. And we would have to be careful that you're doing your ed spending amount correctly so that you can raise the appropriate amount of taxes. If we started at the 7 million, just over $7 million, could we go back to the top of this? Instead of starting at 7,000,003, you start at just over 7 million. Your ed spending per equalized pupil would be lower. Your tax rate would be lower, but you would not raise enough money to pay for what you've said you want to spend. Because the bulk of your revenue comes from the ed fund, from your tax rate. It's not, in the case of the teacher, you can take that out. It's fine. It is immaterial if you're going to get revenue. My only point is that the statute requires that you show all of your intended revenues and all of your intended expenditures. When you do that and not net them, you've netted two pieces in the original budget, and it will lower your budget. It will lower the amount of tax revenue you receive, but you're going to have to pay $7,310,000 worth of expenditures, more or less.
However, here's my argument. However, if I've got that money coming in from the other source, why am I assessing the taxpayers for $7,310,000? Because that's going to be surplus above what I need to spend next year. Because that is offset by the other. It's just like any grant funded position is offset by others. So if I raise all of that money from the taxpayers, I'm making them pay far more than what they need to pay to support the education that I'm delivering to the students. That
local revenue is reduced. In this worksheet, we start with the 7,310,000 and we take out the local revenues, and the ed spending is $7,268,000. One of the other piece that you may find of some interest is the on behalf payment that they talk about. You have to actually raise in taxes. It's part of your ed spending. You can see that it's not deducted here because it's not deducted. The state raises that money from your taxpayers and sends it directly to the tech center on your behalf. But it's not money that you're going to get if you don't have this set up appropriately.
I don't need that money because that's been a donation that's already been given.
You don't get that money. You raise it in taxes.
Why? Why am I raising more taxes than I need?
You need, no, let me try again.
I don't need that because we're getting that money handed to us. It's been handed to us.
No,
It's
that money
from an
comes, that
outside
money
fund.
does not come to you.
It comes from an outside fund to the school. That does not have to be raised in taxes.
Actually, it is raised on you from your taxpayers, and it is sent directly to the tech center. It never comes through your budget.
No, I'm talking about the money for that teacher that you're increasing this. That extra money there.
The money for the teacher that's in there is in the budget of 7,300,000. It is then deducted, and you don't raise taxes to pay that money. It shows here as a
If I
deduction.
put it in that article, I'm raising it.
No,
I'm charging it to the taxpayers. Yes, I am. If it's in that article, it's raised in taxes.
no. What you raise in taxes is your budgeted expenditures less any revenues that you have. So that revenue is here. It reduces the amount of taxes that you have to raise.
So Glenn, on the article here, where we're talking, where it says 7,023,000, it would say then, of course, I gotta find it again. It would say, what you're saying is it would say $7,268,053.
That's your ed spending, yes.
So it wouldn't say $7,395 because you've already taken out the 42,000 for the piece. And so if I'm understanding you correctly, is if there had been an earlier past article that said that they were going to carry over $100,000 2 years ago, that would show right here on line 2. So it would automatically reduce this bottom line here that we're actually trying to raise taxes on.
Right. If you look back in 20 and 21, if part of that revenue was fund balance used as a revenue, it reduces what you're asking the taxpayers to raise. All of any local revenue would show up in that line 9, and it reduces the amount of ed spending, which is what you have to raise taxes on. You don't
Right.
raise taxes on your budget. You raise taxes on your ed spending.
So number 11, or line 11 is what would be reflective here in what you're asking in Article 5.
No,
No? Okay.
no, Article 5 would be the 7,310,000.
And
That's
that's
your
what I'm
budget.
objecting to, because then we're raising all that money. You just told me I didn't need that money, and now you're telling me I'm going to tell the taxpayers they have to pay that.
The taxpayers are not raising $7,310,000. They're
That's
being
what
asked,
Article 5 says they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. That's
What's that?
exactly the amount that the treasurer at the town office puts in there and asks taxpayers to pay.
no, the amount of ed spending is $7,268,000. If you use the numbers that you had, the 200 and whatever that needs to go to the tech centers and on behalf money will be raised in taxes. It will go to the tech center, and you will be that amount short in terms of the revenue that you have raised.
So even though, Glenn, I think I'm very much understanding this now, we have to show it in the budget because we have to show every cost that it is to our school, even though we're getting the 231 and the 26 back, or we're not getting it back. It's kind of just a pass through to pay for that. We still have to show it. Therefore, it reflects in our top line budget figure, if you like. So
It is, it's part of
Yeah.
your expenditures, and
Right.
my concern, the reason that it should show is that it's going to be raised.
Yeah.
Because the on behalf payment is calculated by the state. It says you have this many tech ed students. There's a formula. You're going to raise taxes in your communities of that $248,000. And it's going to go to the tech centers.
Mhm.
But if you don't show it as an expenditure, you'll be short $248,000 in tax revenue that comes to your school district. This is not increasing your total expenditures. If you go down through your expenditure budget, they're all there.
Mhm.
Then some pieces of revenue were added in to suggest that your budget is actually smaller. It is smaller in the sense that you don't need to raise taxes on that, but it is your budget, your expenditures, including everything in and done, is going to be a little over $7,300,000. That's your budget. You're going to get some revenue. One of the real difficulties here is the notion that the tech center is an on-behalf payment that comes from somewhere else. It comes from your taxpayers. It goes directly to the tech centers on your behalf, but you raise it in your communities. It's part of your ed spending.
And that the 20,000 for the student that we have, that can't be shown as revenue to.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, I was unaware of the tuition revenue. I assume there's at least that much, but yes.
Well, we've already billed for the halfway stage. I believe in November it was billed and paid. But again, I'm not totally sure because that goes.
Yes,
through.
if you anticipate receiving any tuition revenue next year, it becomes part of your local revenue and it reduces the amount that your taxpayers have to raise.
Right. Because the student's here this year as an 11th grader and plans on returning next year. So again, that's why I would count it, because they're
Sure.
part of her high school, graduation plan.
We can go back to the budget sheet and add $20,000. It will show on line 9 of this as an additional 20,
Mhm.
and it will reduce your ask to the taxpayers to $7,248,000.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Molly.
So we've lost our quorum. Gonna have to revisit this because we've lost our quorum to vote on these articles. I totally appreciate what Glenn has done here today because I think he's helped us understand some things. But I think that a few of us are working and they've had to leave because they've had other meetings. So I think we need to, we're gonna have to revisit this. It's the 18th, we gotta have it by the 20th. I have a suggestion if anyone wants to listen to it. I've listened to everything. I think Priscilla's probably, that number's already gotten out to people, and she's nervous to make that number go up anymore. I understand what you've done, Glenn. We have this $892,374 that is coming back in and either going to come off the bottom line or put some into a reserve fund. And hopefully people can think about how that ought to happen. John has made a suggestion of putting $100,000 back to reduce taxes. I don't think that's enough at this point. I think people are going to wonder what we're doing when they see that kind of surplus. If we put $350,000 back into the budget to reduce taxes, that would get your number under 6 million. If we use the number that Glenn has given us, that would get us under 7 million, and it would put $542,374 into the reserve fund. I'm throwing that out there because I think we need to say something. We need to talk about this. looking for a little guidance because we have just lost our quorum. So do we have to table this meeting and reschedule it so that we can get this taken care of?
You know, we
do
can't
I have
vote
to
on
do?
it. We can't vote on it, Molly, but we can continue the discussion and get to a point where we're at least understanding better. I'm very nervous about increasing that at all. Anything that's typed out there, because like we said, Friday night, we were at the $7,023,722.83. They also, and we're looking at the River Valley Tech Center, they have a motion and an amount in an article that's in our taxes to be voted on at town meeting. And we vote that amount as their budget separate. And so we're also being, that's also being taken from there and applied. So that's why I'm not understanding why we've got it both places. To me, it's doubling it. We're taxing it both places. I understand Glenn's saying we have to have it in there, but I don't understand why we would have it in two places. So it's very confusing for me on these issues. Thanks for listening.
So that
Okay.
normally is not part of your budget?
I thought it was Glenn, but now that we're questioning it, I don't know without going back and looking.
No, it's been in before.
Well,
It's been in, it was hard to understand, you know, why you put it in if it's paid, you know, almost straight to the tech centers. But I understand that now. It's put in, but we also get the revenue for it, so it supports it. So.
So Andy, I've got to step out. Let me know, you know, what we've got to do to reschedule. Can we reschedule it for another in the middle of the day, or do you want to meet at night? I'll do whatever we got to do, but
Molly, can I interrupt? We have not adjourned this meeting. Since it's not an adjourned meeting, we can recess it and we can meet anytime that you want without having to warn a 24-hour notice for a special meeting. It's always better to have a special one, but if we haven't adjourned this, we can continue it. We could meet again, tomorrow at a time that you set if you want to. As long as we tell that before we adjourn.
Andy, what's your schedule look like?
We have tomorrow we have I mean, I can clear whatever I need to clear. So, I mean, if we're talking in the middle of the day, we have a Rockingham, we have on hold right now, Rockingham special board, just in case. That's tomorrow night. We have nothing Thursday night. If we're looking during the day, I can clear time during the day tomorrow. Same thing with Thursday. So.
All right, tell me what time during the day tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's hard for some of them because you got half a dozen people that are working. That's all. Did you say there was time tomorrow night?
Well, so we have reserved a Rockingham special board meeting in case we needed to for if we didn't get done tonight. So, I mean.
Okay, so Priscilla will have to get done.
I mean, we could do it at 6:30. We could do it.
We're not going to get done tonight, so we may not have a quorum tonight.
Thursday night, Andy?
Thursday
But we
night,
have to have this done by the 20th.
that's the Thursday is the 20th. So does it have to be done on the 20th or before the 20th?
No, we have to have the warnings to the town office probably by the 20th. I mean, I'm sure if we
So they need to be.
give it to her because they're not open Friday.
We'd have to do it during the day on the 20th.
Okay. You tell me. Later afternoon, maybe if people are more available. What's your schedule? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
What time's the town close?
4:30,
So,
plan on 4,
so I guess
and
the
you gotta
question,
have it typed.
yeah, is
Alright,
there
better.
enough- yeah, I mean, 2 o'clock, 2:30,
Let's do it earlier.
1 o'clock?
You want to try a noontime one again?
We can try noon, yeah.
Try noon Thursday. Let's recess this meeting until 12 o'clock, January 20th.
All right.
Everyone that's here, Glenn, you still have a hand up. Did you have something?
Oh, sorry, I put my hand up a while ago. Forgot to take it
Okay.
down.
Okay,
My
let's
apologies for
recess
making
this
this more
meeting.
difficult.
No, I appreciate what you did because it made sense, but just needed to make sure we're all on the same page here. So let's recess this meeting till Thursday at noon,
Glenn, can you hang on 1 second?
January 20th. Me?
No, Glenn, it just,
Yes,
I just
Oh,
wanna,
yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
thank you
And
all.
Andy, can you call me about that letter we got at some point when you get a minute?
I don't know what letter it is, so,
Okay, well then definitely call me.
okay.
Thanks.
Hang on 1 second, Glenn. I gotta- Figure out how to get people out of rooms. No, you're less important. Trying to, how do I get people out? Trying to get back TV out. Sorry, Glenn. Hang on. All right. Oh, no,